Since the day he came into the world, Nasa faced looks of disappointment. His parents, when observing the newborn in the crib, noticed his big and rounded head, which resembled a watermelon. A bit awkward, they decided to name him Nasa, a name that, instead of inspiring, became a reason for mockery. During childhood, the boy would hear laughter and taunts wherever he went. NASA? Seriously? Are you going to become an astronaut with that planet-sized head? It was always like that. Tired of being the target of jokes, NASA decided he would prove his worth. He threw himself into his studies, determined to earn respect and show that his name was not just an unfortunate joke. In elementary school, NASA tried everything to stand out. He even risked some physical exercises, dreaming of gaining muscles, but his heavy head seemed to sabotage every push-up. When he got to high school, he declared to his teacher, a careless guy who didn't believe in anyone, that he wanted to get into the best university in the country. The teacher laughed, saying that he would need a brain like Einstein's and that, with his parents having no money, it was better to dream lower. NASA, with fire in his eyes, shot back, "My name is NASA, and that means there are no limits to my dreams." The teacher insisted that he choose a plan B, but NASA turned his back, convinced that nothing would make him give up. That night, while walking home, NASA held his test with pride, another report card full of top grades. "Even the universe is conspiring in my favor," he murmured, smiling. "But fate loves to play tricks." Suddenly, on the other side of the street, he saw the most beautiful girl he had ever crossed paths with, Tsukasa. NASA's heart raced, and without thinking, he put on his cap, straightened his posture, and started crossing the street, fixated on her. That's when the world spun. A truck appeared out of nowhere, and NASA only felt the impact. The ground was cold, blood was flowing, and the only thing on NASA's mind was the name of that girl, which he didn't even know yet. When he opened his eyes, there she was, Tsukasa, with her face stained with blood, looking at him with a mixture of worry and courage. The truck driver, in panic, asked if he was okay. Tsukasa, with impressive calm, asked that they take NASA to the hospital, but revealed that she also needed care. She had thrown herself in front of the truck to protect him. Before leaving, under the glow of the moon, she began to walk away. NASA, feeling life slip away, gathered strength, rose like a zombie from a horror movie, and shouted to the driver, "I'm going after her! She's too beautiful to let escape!" Running with energy he didn't even know he had, NASA found Tsukasa at a bus stop. She was shocked to see him there, all battered, but he, with a goofy smile, let out a corny pickup line. "Are you a star?" "Because I'm NASA, and I wanted to explore your orbit." Tsukasa, surprised, laughed and asked him to sit down. Carefully, she cleaned the blood off his face with a handkerchief and threw her coat over the boy's trembling shoulders. "You need a hospital now," she said seriously, while he tried in vain to keep up the pose of a charmer. But NASA, stubborn, tried to get up and fell again, his broken legs betraying his courage. Tsukasa firmly opened the bus stop door and said she would call an ambulance. NASA, with his vision blurring, looked at her and, on impulse, compared her to Princess Kaguya, the legendary figure who came from the moon and enchanted everyone. "If we never see each other again, I need to say, I love you, and I want a date with you." Tsukasa, with an enigmatic smile, replied, "If we're to be together, it has to be by getting married." NASA, with his brain working only on passion, agreed immediately before fainting. Days later, NASA woke up in the hospital, stuck in a wheelchair. The image of Tsukasa didn't leave his head, but the uncertainty of never seeing her again threw him into a spiral of sadness. Even having earned the best grades in class, he gave up on the university of his dreams. Instead, he took a simple job, hoping to cross paths with her again. But time passed, and nothing. When he turned 18, NASA had no energy to celebrate. Locked in his little room, he only thought about her, until the doorbell rang. When he opened the door, his heart almost stopped. There was Tsukasa, more beautiful than ever. "Hi, I'm Tsukasa," she said with a smile that lit up NASA's gray day. He, stammering, replied, Nasa Yuzaki." She came in, had some tea, and out of nowhere pulled out a marriage certificate asking him to sign. NASA almost fell off his chair. "Were you serious about getting married?" Tsukasa laughed. "If you don't want to, it's okay." But NASA, faster than lightning, grabbed the pen and signed, as if his life depended on it. As they walked toward City Hall to formalize the marriage, Tsukasa looked at him and said, "You know, NASA, your name isn't a joke. It's the name of someone who dreams big, of someone who takes humanity to the stars." NASA felt his chest warm. At City Hall, the clerk, a grumpy old bachelor, was surprised to see the young couple. He signed the document and, with a sigh, handed over a flower as a gift. From then on, they were really married, and Nasa still couldn't believe that from now on, that beautiful girl was his wife. That night, Nasa paced back and forth in his tiny apartment, still unable to believe he was a married man. He wasn't ready to share that cramped space, and an even bigger problem lingered in the air: how to start a life together with someone he barely knew. Nasa faced quite a dilemma. His tiny apartment had only one bed, and now, with Tsukasa as his wife, where would she sleep? He thought about buying a new bed, but it was already late, and the delivery would only arrive the next day. While racking his brain trying to imagine how to share that small mattress without looking like a canned sardine, Tsukasa suddenly appeared, with a suitcase in hand, and asked, laughing, "Talking to yourself like a lunatic, are you?" Nasa nearly had a heart attack from the scare. She opened the suitcase and, with a mischievous smile, said she was there to really start married life. Nasa, still stunned, ran to make her some coffee, trying to stay calm. That's when Tsukasa dropped the bomb. "I have nowhere to go back to, Nasa. From now on, it's us two every night." Nasa's heart almost stopped. Every night? Together? He could barely process the idea. But Tsukasa looked at his mattress and frowned. "This thing doesn't even fit a rat." Before Nasa could answer, she suggested spending the night at a hotel. Nasa's face collapsed. A hotel. And what if she left and never came back to his shabby little apartment? Tsukasa, noticing the despair in his eyes, gave a light laugh and said, "Relax, Nasa. Even if your place is worse than a shack, I'm your wife. I won't abandon you." Nasa kept looking at her, not understanding. Why would such an incredible girl like Tsukasa choose to stay with a guy like him, who had nothing special? Bravely, he asked, "Tsukasa, why did you want to marry me? We barely know each other." She laughed, as if the question were the silliest thing in the world, and retorted, "And you? Why did you agree to marry me without knowing anything about me?" Nasa, his face burning, muttered, "Because I love you." Tsukasa smiled, her eyes shining. "Then that's it, Nasa. I also wouldn't marry someone I didn't love." She stood up, ready to go to the hotel, but Nasa, on impulse, ran after her. "Stay, please! I swear I'll find a way, even if I have to cross the world to buy a futon." Deep down, he was terrified that if she left, she would never come back. Tsukasa, with an amused look, agreed, and the two went together to a nearby convenience store to buy a mattress and a futon. At the store, Tsukasa was impressed. Nasa knew everything about futons, even more than the sellers. He explained the differences between the models with the excitement of someone choosing a spaceship. Tsukasa, laughing, held his hand, and the two spent hours choosing, as if they were a couple in a soap opera. When they returned to the apartment, Tsukasa tested the futon and gave a smile of approval. "It's comfortable, see? Come here, lie down here with me." But then another problem came up. Tsukasa asked about the bathroom. Nasa, embarrassed, admitted that he used the neighborhood's public bathroom every morning. She, without losing her good humor, suggested a trip to the store to buy hygiene products. Nasa came back with a bag full of things for her, including pajamas. When Tsukasa changed, Nasa almost choked on his coffee. Even in pajamas, she was absurdly beautiful. That night, with the lights off, the two lay down on the futon. Nasa couldn't sleep, his heart beating faster than a samba school drum. It was the first time he had slept so close to a girl, especially one like Tsukasa. Suddenly, he noticed that she moved a lot while sleeping, almost falling off the futon. Carefully, he adjusted the covers over her, thinking of stealing a goodnight kiss, but gave up. It didn't feel right with her asleep. Suddenly, Tsukasa got up, sleepwalking, went to the kitchen to get water, and on the way back, pulled all the blanket to herself, leaving Nasa shivering with cold until morning. The next morning, Nasa woke up thinking everything had been a crazy dream. But there was Tsukasa, acting as if nothing had happened. When she started taking off her pajamas, Nasa shouted, red as a pepper, "Calm down, you're not alone." He ran to the other side of the apartment to give her privacy. When he came back, Tsukasa, now wearing an apron, asked, laughing, "Why do you call me so formally? We're married, aren't we?" They decided to create affectionate nicknames, and Tsukasa's face turned red like a tomato, making Nasa laugh. At breakfast, Tsukasa opened Nasa's fridge and was surprised. It was organized, full of real food. "You cook?" she asked, shocked. Nasa, all proud, explained that he made a scientific analysis of the nutritional needs of an adult and concluded that hot pot was the path to a healthy life. Tsukasa laughed out loud. "Cooking isn't chemistry, Nasa." She grabbed the ingredients and, like a fancy restaurant chef, prepared a dish worthy of an Instagram photo, way better than Nasa's hot pot. He tasted it and was left speechless. You can cook anything, can't you? He asked, astonished. Tsukasa shrugged. With the right ingredients, I can work miracles. After breakfast, Tsukasa asked about taking a bath. Nasa, a bit embarrassed, admitted that he hadn't bathed in days. The idea of seeing Tsukasa without plot armor crossed his mind. But with only basic soap at home, they went back to the store to buy moisturizer and toner. Nasa was stunned by the number of products she picked. He only used soap. At the public bathhouse, they met Kaname, a classmate of Nasa's who helped her family manage the place. Kaname almost fainted when she saw Nasa with a girl. You? With a chick? I thought your destiny was to turn into a museum piece. After laughing, Nasa introduced Tsukasa as his wife. Kaname, in shock, fainted for a second, but recovered and congratulated the couple, offering a free bath as a gift. While Tsukasa went to bathe, Kaname stopped Nasa with a broom. I never imagined you'd get married, dude. I always thought you'd stay single until you turned into a wizard at 70. She asked about the wedding ceremony, but Nasa, embarrassed, said that ceremonies were a waste of money. Kaname crossed her arms, angry. You have to make your wife happy, you fool. Don't be a weak husband. Nasa felt the weight of Kaname's words like a punch to the stomach. He had the mission to make Tsukasa happy no matter what. With his eyes shining with determination, he swore, right there on the street, that he would dedicate his life to making his wife smile. I love you, Tsukasa, he shouted, not caring about the curious looks of passersby. Tsukasa, who heard everything from afar, turned red with embarrassment. Why are you shouting that in the middle of the street, you lunatic? She muttered, hiding her face with her hands, but with a shy smile on her lips. After bathing, Nasa let his mind wander, imagining what it would be like to see Tsukasa in all her beauty, without the barriers of daily life. Suddenly, Kaname appeared out of nowhere, with a mocking grin. Nasa, with that lettuce body of yours, do you really think you'll conquer anyone? She teased, laughing. Nasa, red as a chili pepper, tried to ignore the joke and left quickly. Meanwhile, Tsukasa enjoyed the public bath alone, relaxing in the hot water. The tranquility, however, didn't last long. Aya, the eldest sister of the family that managed the bathhouse, accidentally entered and was mortified. Sorry, 1,000 apologies, she repeated, as if she had committed a crime. To make up for it, Aya offered to scrub Tsukasa's back. While passing the soap, she praised, Wow, your skin is as soft as silk. It's like the screen of an iPhone X. She stopped, embarrassed. Sorry, what a stupid comparison. The two laughed, and after introducing themselves, Aya was shocked to hear that Tsukasa carried Nasa's last name. Are you related to him? She asked, curious. Tsukasa, with a clever smile, lied. I'm his little sister. Hours later, Nasa dreamed about the day he met Tsukasa, reliving every detail. He was ripped out of the dream when she woke him, saying she had finished her bath. Aya approached, all excited, and said, Nasa, I met your little sister. Nasa was confused, but seeing Tsukasa's look, he went along with it. Yeah, true, my dear little sister, he said, scratching his head. Tsukasa, curious, asked Aya how she knew Nasa. Aya explained that they were classmates, and that years ago, when her grandfather passed away, the bathhouse business almost went bankrupt. But Nasa, with those crazy ideas he learned on YouTube, helped us bounce back with marketing, she said proudly. As they walked back home, Tsukasa asked with a slightly dry tone, You think Aya's pretty, don't you? Nasa, not realizing the trap, started talking. Wow, she's super nice. Cute. That smile. He stopped when he noticed Tsukasa's glare, which looked like it could kill him. They passed by a wedding ceremony on the street, with flowers and laughter filling the air. Nasa, remembering Kaname's words about ceremonies, thought Tsukasa was upset because they hadn't had one. In reality, she just wanted to hear a compliment, something like, You're more beautiful than anyone. Frustrated, Tsukasa huffed, and Nasa, not understanding, handed her the apartment key and ran off, saying, I'm going to make the impossible happen. Alone in the apartment, Tsukasa felt a void. Where is this guy? She thought, looking around. She decided to get to work and clean the house, but the place was already spotless. Nasa, you organized nerd, she murmured, smiling. She thought about tidying up the closet or under the bed, but hesitated. What if she found some weird magazine hidden? Suddenly the doorbell rang. It was Chitos, a blonde girl with a sharp attitude. What kind of pigsty is this? My dog lives better, mocked Chitos. Tsukasa, out of patience, slammed the door in her face. Chito started banging on the door, shouting that she came to get Tsukasa because her grandmother was worried about her disappearance. Tsukasa opened the door just to say, "I'm married now, I'm not coming back," and closed it again. Chito, devastated, sat on the stairs and began to cry. That's when Nasa appeared, returning from who knows where, and tried to console the girl. Chito vented, saying that Tsukasa was like a glass butterfly, fragile and disappearing if you blinked. Suddenly, Tsukasa appeared, hearing Nasa's voice. Chito, putting the pieces together, was furious. "You, married to Tsukasa? You idiot!" Without giving Nasa a chance to explain, Chito dragged him to a fancy mansion. Inside, she threatened, "I'll ruin you with compromising photos." She called 2 maids, Charlotte and Aurora, and ordered them to take spicy photos of Nasa. Charlotte, excited, started taking off her clothes, but Chito stopped her right away, yelling, "Calm down, not like that." While they argued, Nasa took the chance and fled through the mansion. He entered a room and smelled something familiar. It was Tsukasa's perfume. In the corner, he saw a rock on display and recognized it immediately. It was a lunar stone, something only museums would have. How did Tsukasa get this? He thought, intrigued. Charlotte burst into the room with a giant sword, ready to cut Nasa in half for invading the space. In the heat of the moment, she hit the lunar stone display, almost breaking the glass and releasing the nitrogen that preserved it. Nasa, using his electrician knowledge, quickly fixed the damage. Chito, surprised, revealed that the stone was a gift from Tsukasa to the family. "You don't know anything about your wife, do you?" she said, annoyed. She explained that Tsukasa saved her when they were children during a climb, and that she didn't understand why she would marry a fool like Nasa. Without wasting time, Charlotte and Aurora put their plan into action, taking photos and editing fake images of Nasa in compromising situations at lightning speed. Nasa was stunned by the speed of the setup. Suddenly, Tsukasa appeared in the room and saw the photos. Chito, triumphant, shouted, "Divorce this traitor!" But Tsukasa, calm, asked to speak with Nasa alone. It was an excuse. As soon as they left the room, Tsukasa grabbed his hand, and the two ran, leaving Chito and the maids behind. Nasa, with his heart in his hands, apologized profusely for the forged photos, swearing that he had been the victim of a setup. Tsukasa, with a clever look, gave a little smile and said, "Relax, Nasa. I'm not stupid. It's obvious this is cheap Photoshop." Meanwhile, Chitozi and her maids, Charlotte and Aurora, realized they had been tricked by the couple and ran after them, furious. But Tsukasa, as if she knew the mansion like the back of her hand, revealed a secret passage that led to an old abandoned church hidden in the back of the property. In the dim light of the church, with stained glass windows casting soft colors on the floor, Nasa saw the perfect opportunity. He held Tsukasa's hands, looked into her eyes, and with his voice trembling with emotion, declared, "Tsukasa, I truly love you, more than anything in the world." Before she could respond, he leaned in, and for the first time, their lips met in a timid but heartfelt kiss. Tsukasa, surprised, turned red but returned it with a smile that made Nasa's heart race. The next day, back at the apartment, Tsukasa wanted to relax by watching a TV show, but quickly realized the problem. Nasa didn't have a television. Even worse, when she asked about movies, he admitted he didn't know anything about the subject. "What did you even do with your life, Nasa?" she exclaimed, incredulous. With the enthusiasm of a true otaku, she gave a passionate lecture on the importance of series and movies in anyone's life. Nasa was impressed. The calm wife he knew turned into a beast when the subject was pop culture. Excited, the two went out to buy a TV. Tsukasa suggested a cheap model, saying, "It doesn't have to be expensive, anyone will make me happy." Later, at the bathhouse, Nasa, all excited, told Kaname that he had proposed to Tsukasa again, this time in a church. Kaname, eyes wide open, asked, "And the ring? Did you buy her a ring?" Nasa, scratching his head, admitted he didn't think it was that important. Kaname exploded. "Nasa, you watermelon head! A ring is one of the 3 most important things a husband gives to his wife." While waiting for Tsukasa to finish her bath, Nasa saw on the bathhouse TV a couple celebrating an engagement with a diamond ring shining. He began to wonder how much something like that would cost. On the way home, they stopped at a park. Sitting on a bench, they watched the movement in silence. Nasa noticed a slight air of melancholy in Tsukasa and imagined she might be sad about being alone while he was at work. That's when he decided. He needed a ring so she would always remember him, even when he was so busy. Arriving home, Nasa said he needed to go to work, but confessed he was afraid of coming back and not finding her there. Tsukasa, with a gentle smile, replied, "Come back on time, and I'll be here waiting for you." At work, Nasa couldn't get Tsukasa out of his mind. He imagined her alone in the apartment and reinforced his decision to buy a ring. When he returned home, Tsukasa had already prepared a neat dinner. During the meal, he blurted out the idea. "What if we bought a diamond ring as a symbol of our love?" Tsukasa, surprised by the sudden romanticism, laughed. "Nasa, we're already married. What you want is an engagement ring, but what we need is a wedding band." She patiently explained the difference between the two, while Nasa, a bit embarrassed, absorbed the lesson. Determined, Nasa insisted he wanted a diamond wedding band. Tsukasa warned it was very expensive, but seeing that he was more stubborn than a mule, she decided to let him learn for himself. The next day, she took him to a fancy jewelry store. When the saleswoman showed the prices, Nasa almost fell over. "This ring costs a fortune because it's of the highest quality, a unique opportunity," explained the woman. Nasa, enchanted, was about to spend all the family's savings, but Tsukasa grabbed his arm and dragged him outside. "I brought you here to show you how expensive it is, not for you to throw everything away," she said, laughing. Even so, Nasa didn't give up. Tsukasa, realizing how committed he was, took him to a simpler store. The prices were much more affordable, but for Tsukasa, still expensive. Nasa, however, confessed, "I want you to have something to look at when I'm not around, to remember that I love you." Tsukasa, touched, felt her heart warm. She kissed him on the cheek and took him to an even cheaper store, where they bought the simplest band they could find. Nasa was worried. Will such a cheap ring have emotional value? Tsukasa held his hand and said, "The price doesn't matter, Nasa. It shows that you love me, and that's what makes me smile every time I look at it." In the following nights, Nasa noticed Tsukasa's habit of sleepwalking, staggering around the apartment, getting water, or collapsing in random corners. One night, she ended up curling up in his bed. Embarrassed but full of courage, Nasa hugged her. Tsukasa, half awake, gave him a quick kiss before collapsing again, now on the floor. The sleepless nights caused by her sleepwalking were taking their toll, and Nasa decided that couldn't continue. He wanted her to sleep comfortably, not on the floor. He thought about buying a bigger bed, but the apartment was too small. Then, a bright idea. What if they moved to a bigger place? An apartment with a living room, a big TV, and space for the two of them to truly live. Excited, he asked Tsukasa, "What do you think about moving to a bigger place with room for our life together?" Tsukasa, with a loving smile, confessed she loved the simplicity of their cramped apartment. "It's small, but it makes me feel so close to you," she said, leaving Nasa with a warm heart. At the bathhouse, Kaname heard about the idea of moving and was shocked to learn that Tsukasa sometimes slept on the floor because of sleepwalking. "If my future husband made me live in a shack without a bathroom, I'd lose it," exclaimed Kaname, shaking her head. That night, an embarrassing moment changed everything. Nasa accidentally entered the room while Tsukasa was changing clothes and turned red as a pepper when he saw her. Sorry, he stammered, turning his face. Mortified, he suggested, "We really need a bigger apartment to avoid these situations." Tsukasa, worried about the costs, hesitated, but Nasa, excited, added, "Just think, a place with room for a projector for your movies and a shelf for your DVD collection." Tsukasa's eyes lit up. As a true cinema lover, the idea of a corner for her passions won her over immediately. Decided, they began looking for a new home, but soon realized they would need a guarantor. That's when Nasa came to terms. He still hadn't told his parents about the marriage. Nervous, he picked up the phone, called his mother, blurted out, "Hi, Mom, I got married," and hung up quickly. Tsukasa laughed at his panicked face. He explained that he had already told his parents about the accident and how she saved him, so he thought it was time to introduce her. Despite the nervousness, Nasa received a message from his mother, who, clever as always, guessed that he needed help with the apartment. She asked the couple to visit them, since they lived in another province. Nasa saw there the perfect chance for a honeymoon, and Tsukasa, excited, suggested buying a camera to record the trip in a photo diary. The next day, they started the adventure by taking photos of Tsukasa by a shining lake. Nasa discovered he had a natural talent for photography, capturing angles that made Tsukasa even more beautiful. They caught a bus to Kyoto, with Tsukasa sleeping peacefully on Nasa's shoulder, while he pretended to be comfortable despite the hard seats. Meanwhile, Chitose, Charlotte, and Aurora followed the couple by car, spying. Chitose, jealous, muttered that she would separate them, but the maids, seeing the chemistry between Nasa and Tsukasa, whispered, "They're so cute together. Why do you want to ruin this?" Chitose, annoyed, told the two to shut up, insisting that every couple faces problems on a honeymoon. At a stop, Nasa lost his wallet and ran back to the bus, desperate. Chitose laughed, thinking this would irritate Tsukasa, but she calmly just said, "You're a disaster, but you're my disaster." Later at the mall, Nasa suggested eating at the food court, but Tsukasa put her foot down. "No fast food, I want something special." They chose a dish with a touch of lemon, and Nasa, unintentionally, took embarrassing photos of Tsukasa with her mouth full. She got mad, and Chitose, spying, cheered, hoping for a fight. But Nasa gently said, "Pick whatever you want, love." Tsukasa asked for a melon bread, and peace returned to Chitose's disappointment. Chitose confronted Tsukasa, saying she deserved better than a donkey like Nasa. Tsukasa, with a serene smile, retorted, "I'm a normal girl, Chitose, and he makes me happy." At that moment, a TV crew appeared filming a cooking show, and the couple used the distraction to escape. On the bus, Tsukasa confessed her fear that Nasa's parents wouldn't accept her. He held her hand and promised, "I'll convince them. You'll see." Meanwhile, Chitose ordered Charlotte and Aurora to chase the couple, but the two, hungry, stopped to devour a snack. Arriving in Kyoto, Nasa was excited to explore temples and shrines, but Tsukasa, with her Gen Z style, only cared about the city's famous bakeries. "A bakery? Seriously? There are 1,000 in Tokyo!" exclaimed Nasa, surprised. Even without much interest in history, Tsukasa gave in and accompanied Nasa, but not without first trying on a kimono. When Nasa saw her, he was speechless, his brain melting from such beauty. That's when Chitose and the maids appeared again. Nasa, wanting to resolve the situation, suggested that Charlotte and Aurora take Tsukasa to see Kyoto, while he spoke to Chitose alone. Chitose, with a devious plan, said she would pretend to be his girlfriend to test if he was worthy of Tsukasa. Nasa, determined, took her on a rickshaw ride, enthusiastically talking about how amazing, cute, and perfect Tsukasa was. Chitose was furious. "You don't know anything about her," she snapped. "Tsukasa is athletic, calm, and you, a complete zero." Meanwhile, at a cafe, Charlotte and Aurora asked Tsukasa why she chose Nasa. With a sparkle in her eyes, she replied, "He's sweet, and he always compliments me in front of others. That makes me feel special." Flashbacks of moments when Nasa praised her ran through her mind, warming her heart. Despite Chitose's attempts, the connection between Nasa and Tsukasa only seemed to grow, leaving the rival increasingly frustrated. Chitose stormed off, muttering to herself that she never imagined Tsukasa, with so many options, would choose a clueless nerd like Nasa. "She could have been with me," she murmured, jealous. Nasa, with a sparkle in his eyes, told Chitose how Tsukasa had saved him from a truck 2 years earlier. "Since that day, I've felt like we were meant for each other. Maybe I don't know her as well as you do, but I'll spend my whole life proving that our love is real." Chitose, out of arguments, turned her back and said she would return to Tokyo, leaving the couple in peace, at least for now. On the bus heading to Nara, where they would meet Nasa's parents, he shared a little about his family. "I grew up in Tokyo, but my parents are kind of crazy. My dad is an archaeologist, and my mom is obsessed with deer, so they moved to Nara." Tsukasa, a little nervous, asked, "Do you think I'll get along with these lunatics?" Nasa, with a confident smile, held her hand. "Don't worry, I'll make everything work out." When they arrived, both were a little tense but tried to cheer each other up. Suddenly, they spotted Tokiko, Nasa's mother, spying on them from behind the door like a clumsy detective. They entered the house, and Tokiko introduced herself with exaggerated energy, as if she had escaped from an asylum. "Welcome!" she shouted, before revealing that Anishi, Nasa's father, was so nervous about the visit that he had spent the entire day paralyzed on the couch. During dinner, Nasa's parents started acting so eccentric, it seemed like they were having a breakdown. Anishi, out of nowhere, insisted that Nasa take a bath. Nasa tried to refuse, but Tsukasa, with a clever look, encouraged him. "Go ahead, let me talk to your parents alone." After the bath, Tsukasa said she had a good conversation with Anishi, but kept the details with a mysterious smile. Later, in Nasa's old bedroom, while going through old memories, Tokiko appeared and asked if they would be staying the night. Nasa confirmed, and she, with a wink, warned, "Look, the walls here are thin, so no happy noises, okay?" Nasa turned red as a chili pepper. That night, a bit awkward, he asked Tsukasa to sleep with her head on his arm. She agreed, snuggling in, and they enjoyed a moment of pure connection, until Nasa's arm went numb, messing everything up. Laughing, he asked for a goodnight kiss, and Tsukasa, with a shy smile, kissed him softly before they both fell asleep. The next morning, Tsukasa admired the sunrise when Anishi joined her. "You wake up early, huh?" he said. Tsukasa, with a mischievous smile, replied, "Good morning, father-in-law." Anishi almost had a heart attack from the surprise, but soon laughed. They shared a light conversation and went to Anishi's library, where Tsukasa impressed him by reading old documents with ease. Nasa, who arrived shortly after, was stunned. "You like this historical stuff?" Tsukasa shrugged, modest. "It's just a good memory." To make the trip fun, Tsukasa suggested taking photos of Nasa at ancient shrines, since she wasn't such a big fan of history. At the Great Buddha of Nara, she spent a long time taking embarrassing selfies of Nasa's ugly face, laughing out loud. He, in turn, was impressed by how much she knew about the places, even though she said it was just good memory. Nasa suggested couple selfies, and Tsukasa, joking, accused, "You just want an excuse to hug me, you sly guy." At the empty grounds of Heijo Castle, Tsukasa grew melancholic, reflecting on how few traces of the past remained. "Let's record videos to keep our memories forever," she suggested, determined. That night, Anishi threw himself to the ground, thanking Tsukasa for saving Nasa's life. "We can never repay you for this," he said, emotional, asking her to continue taking care of his son. Tsukasa, with a sincere smile, promised, "I'll do my best." Before they left, she left several funny photos of Nasa for his parents, who laughed warmly. Despite the short trip, Tsukasa confessed she felt at home by Nasa's side. Back in Tokyo, the shock, their apartment had caught fire. Luckily, Tsukasa had taken almost everything in her suitcase. Nasa, relieved, pointed to a tree that survived the flames. "It's the symbol of our love," he said, making Tsukasa laugh at his exaggerated romanticism. He reassured her, revealing that he had insurance and kept valuables in a safe. "Let's go to the bathhouse to relax and plan the next step," he suggested. At the bathhouse, while they relaxed, Nasa began imagining a night in a hotel with Tsukasa, but his mind quickly drifted to more colorful thoughts. Konami appeared out of nowhere, interrupting. "Why don't you stay here until you find a new place?" she offered. Nasa, excited, agreed immediately. Konami took them to see the space where they would stay, but was worried about Aya, her sister, who had a crush on Nasa and still thought he and Tsukasa were siblings. Konami tried to explain that they were married, but Aya, distracted, didn't catch the hint. Nasa, thanking for the hospitality, interrupted the conversation, not realizing that Aya still hadn't understood the situation. Aya was one step away from realizing that Nasa and Tsukasa were married, especially when he mentioned having introduced Tsukasa to his parents in Nara. But, since Aya wasn't exactly the most attentive person in the world, the penny still hadn't dropped. That's when Konami and Aya's mother entered the conversation, saying she had just spoken with Nasa's wife. That finally lit a bulb in Aya's head. "Married?" she exclaimed, with a mix of anger and sadness. Her mother consoled her, comparing the situation to her own story when her husband left her. Aya, wiping her tears, quickly regained her spirit and told Nasa, "Take good care of Tsukasa, okay? I'll chase my dream of becoming a game streamer." Kaname, seeing Nasa worried, patted him on the back. "Relax, Aya will be fine. She had a little crush on you, but she never confessed. That's her own fault." Nasa, relieved but still feeling a weight, thanked her for the support. Days later, Tsukasa noticed they were running out of clean clothes. When Nasa offered to wash everything, she refused, red with embarrassment, just imagining him handling her underwear. While separating the dirty clothes, Nasa, curious, sniffed one of Tsukasa's shirts and got caught in the act by Kaname. "You disgusting creep," she shouted, laughing and calling him a ugly pervert. In the laundry room, Tsukasa taught Nasa how to wash clothes properly, since he did everything haphazardly. In a moment of courage, she confessed, a little embarrassed, "I'm just wearing these sweatpants with, nothing underneath." Nasa almost choked, his face burning. Taking advantage of the moment, he snapped a photo of her, thinking, "This one's too good to let slip by." Later, Konami suggested that Nasa take Tsukasa shopping for new clothes, since the ones from the fire were lost. "If she keeps wearing those old clothes, she'll look like a beggar," she joked. Nasa, agreeing, took Tsukasa to the mall. There, she tried on several outfits, strutting with confidence. In the lingerie section, Nasa turned red as a tomato, not knowing where to look. Tsukasa, laughing, held his hand to calm him, but decided it was better to choose alone. On the way back, Nasa, a little shy, asked, "Do you think one day I'll see you in some cute lingerie?" Tsukasa, blushing, quickly changed the subject, dying of embarrassment. At the bathhouse where they were still staying, Nasa thought the room was a bit old-fashioned, but Tsukasa prepared an amazing dinner with fried pork and sauce, a dish Nasa loved since his family was crazy about fried food. He praised, "I want to eat your cooking for the rest of my life." Kanami showed up with a gift, a muskmelon, sweet as paradise. The couple, delighted, decided they had to repay the kindness. Trying to be romantic, Nasa offered Tsukasa a piece of melon in her mouth, remembering she had already done the same on the trip. A little embarrassed, she accepted, and the two laughed, the mood light and affectionate. The next day, Nasa's former landlord called, offering a new apartment for the same rent as before, since he liked the couple. Kanami was disappointed, as she thought their clumsy love story was entertaining, but she took them to see the place. The apartment was a dream. Elegant design, detailed hallways, and an incredible view from above. The bathroom, with a bathtub and a view of the city, had Nasa imagining romantic baths, while Tsukasa was already dreaming of moments together. The master bedroom had a huge bed, much better than the old futon. On the way back, Nasa promised to work hard to pay the rent, but Tsukasa, with a smile, said, "Wherever we live, if it's with you, it will be our home." The next day, Kanami talked about her routine at the bathhouse, waking up at 5:30 a.m. to clean before school. When Tsukasa offered to help, Kanami refused, saying she was a guest. But Tsukasa insisted, "I don't want to stay here for free." Kanami gave in and was impressed by Tsukasa's care in cleaning, especially in the hard-to-reach corners. She revealed that Nasa had created inventions to automate part of the work, making life easier for the family. Grateful, Kanami confided, "You saved Nasa, and he helped us so much. He's special, you know?" Later, Tsukasa asked what Nasa's favorite food was. He answered, excited, "Curry." She decided to buy ingredients for homemade curry, and Nasa accompanied her to the market. On the way, they met Kanami's mother, who suggested with a wink, "Take some time at the park to spice up your marriage?" Nasa, not understanding the hint, was confused. At the market, on their way back, Nasa joked, "Good thing we're not teenagers, otherwise there would be a dad waiting to scold us." Tsukasa, laughing, noticed he had led them, unintentionally, to an empty park. "Got some crazy ideas, huh?" she teased. Nasa, red, admitted he just wanted to kiss her, but Tsukasa, laughing, confessed that she had garlic breath from a bun. Frustrated but enchanted, Nasa hugged her from behind, holding her tightly. Tsukasa, surprised but smiling, admitted, "This place is so calm. It feels like it's just the two of us in the world." In the deserted park, with Nasa's unexpected hug, Tsukasa laughed, a little startled, but confessed, "You caught me off guard, but, it actually felt nice." Nasa, his heart pounding, asked, "Are you happy to be married to me?" Tsukasa raised an eyebrow, finding the question a bit strange, but replied with a sincere smile, "Of course I am, Nasa. Being with you is an adventure. Every day I learn something new." The two, like a pair of lovebirds, embraced each other with so much affection that it felt like the world around them disappeared. Days later, Chitose and her maids, Charlotte and Aurora, discovered that Nasa and Tsukasa's apartment had turned to ashes. By coincidence, Tsukasa passed by the burned building just as they were there. Horrified, Chitose asked where she was living. Tsukasa, with her playful way, blurted, "I'm living in the playground down the street inside a slide." Chitose, believing it, went into the playground to check how someone could live there. Taking the chance, Tsukasa slipped away quickly, laughing at her rival's silly face. Meanwhile, Nasa was organizing things in the borrowed room at the bathhouse. Digging through the junk, he found a taco machine and had an idea. Taco party. He invited Kaname and Aya, but Kaname warned that Aya was still upset about the marriage thing, feeling uncomfortable. Before Nasa could say anything, Chitose stormed into the bathhouse, having tracked down Tsukasa. Seeing her, Tsukasa joked, "I'm living on the bathroom floor now." Chitose, with her goldfish brain, believed it and got worried, but Nasa explained, laughing, "Calm down, we're just staying in a borrowed room here at the bathhouse." Chitose and the maids explored the bathhouse and ended up loving the place. Chitose, however, questioned, "Why didn't you stay at my mansion?" Tsukasa, with a sly smile, replied, "Because there's no video games there." Chitose, indignant, promised to buy every console in the world to lure Tsukasa. Aya, who also loved games, got so excited about the idea that she ended up stealing Chitose's attention. With everyone gathered, Tsukasa kicked off the taco party. Aya, wanting to test if Tsukasa was worthy of Nasa, challenged her first in the kitchen and then to a Street Fighter match. Nasa, trying to fit in, revealed that he enjoyed games like Minesweeper and Solitaire, which made everyone laugh. In the first round, Tsukasa defeated Nasa in seconds, and Kaname, despite resisting, also fell. Charlotte and Aurora, to spice up the party, suggested a video game tournament, with the rule that the winner could ask Nasa for a favor as long as it was possible. Chitose, with a mischievous plan, entered the tournament dreaming of humiliating Nasa, maybe asking something embarrassing like dancing naked. But Aya, with impressive skill, defeated Chitose mercilessly. Furious, Chitose demanded a rematch, but Aya beat her again. And again. When Tsukasa joined the match, Chitose revealed that the two had played video games all day long in childhood. Tsukasa lost on the first try and, laughing, said, "I'm rusty." She asked to switch to the classic version of Street Fighter, which Aya didn't master. Aya quickly lost, and the competition turned into a pride battle, with the two forgetting the prize completely and playing for honor. In the end, they tied in an epic double knockout, and the two congratulated each other, laughing with sportsmanship. The party went back to tacos, and everyone dove into the food. While Tsukasa and Nasa prepared the dishes together, laughing and getting messy with sauce, Chitose watched them. For the first time, she began to accept their marriage. Charlotte and Aurora, noticing the change, teased, "So stop plotting against the lovebirds?" Chitose, with a sigh, replied, "If Tsukasa's happy, I'll stay out of it." While washing the dishes, Nasa asked Tsukasa what she would have asked as a favor if she had won the tournament. She, with a mischievous smile, leaned in and gave him a sweet kiss on the lips, saying, "This is more than enough." Nasa, his heart racing, could only smile, completely melted by her. The next morning, Nasa received news that the system at the company where he worked was down, and the problem was serious. Tsukasa, seeing the worry on his face, asked what had happened. He explained the situation, and she, with a caring tone, reminded him, "Take it easy, Nasa. You dive headfirst into work and forget to take care of yourself." But Nasa, stubborn as always, dove into the problem, spending hours trying to fix everything. Suddenly, he began to feel unwell, his head hot and his body heavy. Tsukasa, noticing his red face, confirmed he had a fever. She spent the day taking care of him like a true nurse, placing a cold towel on his forehead and making sure he rested. At night, while using a fresh cloth to ease the heat, Tsukasa began cleaning his neck, but when she went a bit lower, Nasa, red with embarrassment, shouted, "Stop, stop! No need to go that far or else my little buddy will turn to stone." Tsukasa laughed but stopped, respecting his request. That night, while they slept, Tsukasa held his hand tightly. Nasa, half groggy, thought it was a dream, until she hugged him from behind, whispering, "I worried about you all day." He turned, and the two shared a sweet kiss. When Nasa tried to prolong the moment, Tsukasa scolded him playfully. "Rest, you stubborn guy. I need you strong again." The next morning, Kaname found Tsukasa and mentioned the upcoming summer festival. "If you're going as a married woman, you have to wear a yukata," she said, excited. Tsukasa, thrilled, bought yukatas for her and Nasa. While she was changing, Nasa, curious, asked, "Can I take a peek?" Tsukasa, with a sly smile, allowed a quick look. When he saw her, he was left breathless. She was stunning, like a living painting. Without thinking, he kissed her, but Tsukasa, laughing, gently pushed him away. "If we get carried away, we'll be late." At the festival, Tsukasa went straight for traditional tacos, devouring them with delight. Nasa tried to keep up but couldn't resist taking several photos of her, each one more charming than the last. They found Kaname and Aya working at a goldfish scooping booth, helping the local businesses. Tsukasa, full of confidence, said, "I'm a pro at this." Nasa tried to impress her, but came back empty-handed, while Tsukasa caught one fish after another. The two laughed, and Nasa saved yet another picture of her, proud. Next, they visited a nearby shrine. Tsukasa made a silent wish, carefully holding the wooden plaque. Then she revealed to Nasa, "I wished for a happy marriage and for your health." She confessed with a worried look, "Everyone admires your dedication, but I'm afraid you'll wear yourself out working so much. Promise me you'll take better care of yourself?" Nasa, touched, hugged her tightly, grateful that she always thought of him. "I want you by my side for many years," said Tsukasa with a smile that melted his heart. Soon, Kaname, Aya, and other friends joined to watch the fireworks. Nasa showed the photos he had taken of Tsukasa, swearing he would never delete any of them, even the most embarrassing ones. Surrounded by laughter and by the glow of fireworks exploding in the sky, Nasa held Tsukasa's hand and thought, "I want to live this with her every year for the rest of my life."